Well, I'm going to welcome everyone to the day after Memorial Day. I hope you're all ready to learn something fantastic about your sales conversations. And we have the ladies from Zenagos with us today. We're very fortunate to have them giving presentations for us, webinars, training programs for us. They have a lot of information that they're going to share with you today. And as we're waiting for more folks to join, I would like to introduce you to SCORE, if you're not already familiar. Our goals at SCORE are to share business information with you. And we do that in a couple of different ways. One is through the information on our website at score.org. You're going to find lots of articles to read, videos to watch, templates to download. There's a wealth of information there. If you've not been to the website, I strongly encourage you to take a look. The other way we share information is through our workshops and webinars. We do a few in person, most are online, and we advertise those through our website, through our newsletter, through social media. So if you could keep a lookout for that information coming your way, you'll know what we have coming next to register. The most important thing that SCORE does, however, is our mentoring. And our mentors are volunteers that come to us with a lot of different backgrounds and skill sets. And they want to share what they've learned through their failures, through their successes with the small business community. We work with folks that are trying to decide if small business ownership is right for them. Those that are in the planning phase and those that are already in business. Perhaps you are growing, or you have one aspect of business that you need to sharpen your skills in. We can help you. So a beginning session is going to be probably about 40 minutes. They want to know about you, your goals, your challenges, and they're going to work with you to formulate a plan to achieve those goals. Our mentors work as teams. So you'll be assigned a mentor, and then that mentor will bring in others as needed, or they will reach back to each other for additional information. They very much want to make sure that they're giving you all the information you possibly need to be successful. So if you don't have a SCORE mentor, it's really strongly encouraged. It is proven that businesses are more successful when they have a mentor in place. So getting a mentor is very, very, very easy. Score.org website, there's a blue box. You type in your zip code. That will assign you to the chapter that's nearest you. And then a couple quick questions, and that, about you and your business, or what your goals are, or what your questions are. And that information will be used to help assign you to the person that is best fit to assist you. So a little housekeeping on our webinar today. We are going to do the questions at the end. If we can use the Q&A tab, we do expect a decent crowd today, so we want to make sure we don't lose track of any of those questions that you submit. So if you have a question for our presenters today, please go ahead and put them into the Q&A tab. Everything else can go through chat, and I think they are going to ask you a couple questions and things along the way that can go in chat for sure. We are recording as well. We do not plan to share this presentation slides, but we will be happy to share the recording so that you can watch it again in case you've missed any information. And that will be posted on our website within 24 to 48 hours at the score.org/Boston website, on the blue bar according to that graphic there on the screen. Under local workshops, previously recorded webinar, that's where you will find it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull down my share screen and turn it over to the wonderful ladies at Zenagos.
Thank you, Teresa, for that kind introduction. We are really excited to be here today. We've got a great group that we're going to work on perfecting your sales conversations. I'm Karen Baldischwieler. My colleagues call me K14, so they don't have to pronounce my crazy 14-letter Swiss last name. I'm one of 4 co-founders of Zenagos. We call ourselves the Zenagos experts. Monica couldn't make it today, but Stacy, Mavis, and I are all here. We have extensive sales experience. Stacy has advised branded companies, including Fidelity and Land's End, but has spent the past 2 decades helping a wide variety of small businesses to improve their marketing, sales, and technology. Mavis has sold massive e-commerce technology deals to companies like Walmart and Nestle, but her coolest sales experience was selling Lexus cars for the highest rated dealer in the US, the winner of the 2022 JD Power of Excellence Award. I've also participated in selling 10-year, 8-figure enterprise sales deals to large institutions like University of Kansas, the College of William and Mary. So we each have a lot of experience in big companies. But what we're most proud of is that we've started 17 small businesses between the four of us. We've each been a solo entrepreneur at least once in our lives, and we know how hard it is to get a business off the ground. And now, as Zenagos, we provide our blue chip experience to small businesses at a very affordable cost because we want others to have the help that we wish we'd had back then. So we're thrilled to have an opportunity to share with and learn from you today. A couple of housekeeping items. Please feel free to engage in the chat. I'm also going to give you some questions to answer in there as we go. And please, if you have questions you want us to answer, don't be shy about entering questions into the Q&A. We're going to leave time at the end to answer some questions. If you want to connect with one or more of us on LinkedIn after the session, make sure to say that you were at the SCORE webinar. That way we will accept your invitation. And Stacy's going to post our LinkedIn links in the chat in a little bit, so look out for that. All right, sales conversations are a specialized kind of pitching in which your goal is to move the prospective customer to the next step in your sales process. So to help you with that, our objectives today, by the end of the session, you're going to be able to apply proven sales techniques to your customer conversations, and you're going to be able to talk to prospective customers with a little bit more confidence. If you want a summary of the presentation, we are going to share a document called Tips for Selling that includes the key points. So it's not the actual slides, but it's better. It's a summary. So to get this takeaway, use your phone camera and grab this QR code, and we'll mail you a link so that you can download it. Stacy's also going to put the QR code link directly in the chat. I can see it's already there in case just using a link there is easier for you. Also, on the page that you land on when you use this QR code, there's an option to schedule a free one-on-one session with Mavis. If you schedule one, you can share any specific sales questions about your business that you have with Mavis. She'll be happy to give you some personal suggestions. I promise she's not going to try to sell you any consulting or anything else. She'll just answer any personal sales questions you have. And if you feel like getting free takeaways and small business tips from the Zenagos experts, subscribe to our newsletter. It only comes once a month, and we share AI tips and lots of other great content. So you can get that at the bottom of our website, zenagos.com. All right, today we're going to walk through a process for having a successful sales conversation. We're going to break down how to open the sale, how to close the sale, and give you lots of great tips. And we're also going to provide some demonstrations so you can kind of see how the process works live. We'll finish with that Q&A that we mentioned before. So let's just take a moment to reflect to start. So go into the chat and tell us what you sell. What's your industry and your offering? What do you find the most challenging about selling? I'll give you a second to do that. Awesome. Lots of variety. Very cool. Okay, keep putting those in there. Stacy and Mavis are taking notes for me. How do we perfect our sales conversations? So let's break it down. So at Zenagos, we teach 8 key steps for a sales conversation. You don't need to write all these down because they are in that takeaway that I mentioned. These steps they should flow naturally as a conversation. And we're then going to break it down and give you examples of each step. So we like to break this into steps because sometimes selling just makes people nervous. It helps to see it as a process or a series of steps. And take heart. We know from working with our clients that anyone can get better at selling with practice. The first 4 steps we call opening the sales conversation. We're going to cover why each step's important, how to do it, and give you a tip or two on how to succeed in that step. And then finally, we're going to do a couple of demos, one for a service business and one for a product business. Since Mavis is on our team and used to sell cars, we always like using car examples, so you'll probably see one of those. Greeting. The greeting is important because people like a little bit of get to know you time. They don't expect to be sold to immediately. and you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Some surveys show that people make their decision about you in the first 3 seconds, so you really don't get a lot of time. So the goal of the greeting is to be warm and try to build some connection with a customer. You want to break the ice, get over the awkwardness of meeting someone new, and relax a little bit. The key here is to be present. Pay attention to your audience and adjust to what you observe. So this is called reading the room. For example, is this a formal meeting or an informal meeting? Is there a cultural preference that you should take into account? If you're not sure, then you follow the customer's lead. So try to reflect their body language and their speech patterns. So for example, if they're talking casually and they want to chat about the weather and their kids, go ahead and do that. If they're talking quickly and they want to get right down to business, go that instead. So go at the customer's speed. How to engage is influenced by the communication medium. So if you're face-to-face, make eye contact, nod as you listen, show interest by asking questions. If you're on the phone, keep your voice light and bright. Your expression and demeanor really show in your voice. Salespeople who work in call centers usually put a mirror in front of them so they can see their expression, sort of like you on Zoom, so they can make sure they're smiling, because the smile actually comes across over the phone. And then finally, if you're on a video conference like Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, WebEx, make sure that you're looking at the camera. Place whatever you're reading high and in the center of the screen so you're not looking off to the side. Check your self view. Make sure you're smiling, looking engaged and present. So another important tip is to practice your transitions into step 2 so that it doesn't feel awkward when you do get down to business. We call this transition from small talk to sales talk the bridge. So here's some suggestions for bridges. How may I help you today? How would you like to use our time today? What are you looking for today? What are you hoping to find today? What would you like to achieve today? This is Monica's favorite. What's on your radar today? So you'll notice that the bridges are usually questions, and by asking a question, you're basically asking the prospect's permission to move on to business. You'll see this theme a couple of times through our conversation about sales process. Ask permission, what we've referred to as seeking a soft confirmation. This lets your customer feel in charge of the pace of the conversation instead of feeling pushed. So let's do a quick demo right now so you can see how step 1 looks in practice. So Mavis is going to be playing the role of a car salesperson, of course, and Stacy will be the prospect who's just walked into the dealership. So take it away, Mavis.
Hi, I'm Mavis. Welcome to the dealership.
Hi, I'm Stacy.
So my prospect hasn't given me any obvious signals yet, so I'll start with a little small talk. It's crazy raining out there today. It must have been quite a trip over here.
Oh, I don't live very far from here, but I went through some serious puddles on the way. I don't have a lot of time. I just want some quick information.
So I'm going to take the hint. She wants to get right down to business. And this happens a lot at car dealerships because buyers are nervous about being taken advantage of or getting the hard sell. So I'll transition quickly. Of course, how can I be of service?
So Mavis read the room and she reflected the prospect's urgency to get started, and she used a quick and easy bridge. How can I be of service? So now she's ready to move on to the next step. So for step 2, we want to understand the customer's needs. And this is where you start to build KLT, know, like, trust with your prospective customer. This is also your big chance to learn the information that's going to help you win the sale. Most people waste this chance. So the goal while you're listening is to discover what specific characteristics of your offering best apply to this customer situation. It's much easier to position your offering effectively if you really understand the customer's problem. So if you want to know what the problem the customer is trying to solve, then instead of talking about all 12 features of your offering, you then talk only about the 2 or 3 features that the customer really cares about. So if you talk about every feature, your prospect's not going to feel heard. If you only talk about what he or she cares about, then they'll know that you cared to listen. And that's the beginning of trust. So the key tip here is don't rush. Step 2 is the part of the sales process where small business owners make the most and the biggest mistakes. We small business owners have a tendency to talk too much and too soon. We think our offering is awesome and we really want to close the deal. And so we just start spewing information. We don't listen enough. And this happens especially when we're nervous. However, good listeners are thought to be the best conversationalists. Why? Because people like to talk about themselves. So your prospect is going to be happiest if they do most of the talking. And if you can keep the prospect talking, you're going to learn what they really value, and that's powerful. If you talk too much, you may never even hear what they care about. And if you don't hear them, you definitely can't speak to their issues. And that's going to keep you from winning business. So once again, to wrap up step 2, and this is critical, don't jump ahead and start talking about your solution. The best salespeople take the time to build a relationship. And the only way you figure out how to close the deal with this prospect is if you listen first and try to connect. So stop talking and listen. Sometimes the best information comes after an uncomfortably long pause. So try to forget that you're selling something and focus on learning something about the other person. So let's see how Mavis handles step 2 in our car sales demo. Mavis.
Stacy wanted to get right down to business, so I'm going to be direct in exploring her needs. Stacy, that's great. I totally understand if you're short on time, so please tell me what questions you have and what information you need today.
Well, I need a good-sized SUV or maybe a minivan.
Well, we have a good selection of both. Will you be hauling a lot of people or a lot of cargo?
Just my 2 dogs. I have these large crates and I can't fit both of them in my car right now. I really want my dogs to be safe.
Of course, I feel the same about my dog. So let me ask, what are you driving right now and how big are those crates?
Well, I have a small SUV and each crate is 36 inches long.
So Mavis has just learned something really valuable here. Not every person who buys a car is worried about how to fit 2 dog crates in there. So this is really going to help Mavis to focus her conversation. So if you ask Mavis or Monica, both of whom are superior salespeople, they're going to tell you that the questions that they ask are very intentional. So during this phase of the sales conversation, they want to learn what features of the offering are most important to the prospect. They don't ask a bunch of random questions. And doing that can make the prospect feel like they're being interrogated anyway. So instead, great salespeople spend their time, a little time on their own beforehand, figuring out what questions they can ask to determine what the customer needs. Start with what the prospects commonly say to you and then work backward from there. So for our example, in our demo, Stacy said to Mavis that she was interested in SUV or a minivan. So I put in row 1 here under what prospects say, SUV or minivan. So then Mavis would spend time on her own thinking about what the unique features are about each type of car that she sold. So for example, the features that are unique to a minivan are sliding doors, folding seats, lots of safety features. An SUV typically has, more cargo space. So under features, I'll put that SUVs are more flexible for cargo, and then minivans have more safety features. So what's a good question to ask? So the question Mavis asked, will you be hauling a lot of people or a lot of cargo? So that, when Stacy said she's worried about her dogs, Mavis filed that under people, since the dogs are a member of the family, clearly. So she started talking about the minivan, which is more focused on people. So let's come up with one more question. So in row 2, Mavis has noted that customers often say they want something with good gas mileage. Under features, she says, electric vehicles and hybrids both get good mileage, but EVs have limited range. So what question could she ask? She could ask, do you take long trips or do you mostly commute? And that would help her to differentiate. So again, for step 2, we don't ask just any old question. Instead, we intentionally match up the questions to the features of the offering. So every question helps you have a better sales conversation with that particular prospect. And don't worry, this slide is in that takeaway. So you don't have to copy it all down. When you get really good at this, it's actually going to reduce the number of objections that you get later in the sales process because you ask such great questions up front. So anyhow, once you've asked some great questions so that you'll have a better idea for what the customer needs, you're ready to go start talking about what you have to offer. So for step 3, now we're ready to demonstrate the offering. This is important because it's your opportunity to explain your offering such that it addresses the exact need or pain that the customer has described to you. The goal is show the customer the value that you offer, but specifically how that value meets their needs. If you don't know what features you should be emphasizing, then you didn't ask the right questions in step 2, and you need to continue the conversation until you know what features the prospect really cares about. Remember, nobody wants to hear you talk on and on about a bunch of features that don't matter to them. The next level sales tip here is after your demonstration, ask for a soft confirmation from the customer that what you described meets their needs. This can be really quick and simple. So for example, you could say, how does that sound? So this is one of those moments I talked about earlier where you invite the customer to control the conversation. Think of this confirmation as an escape hatch. If you're on the wrong track, it gives the customer a chance to tell you so that you can make a really quick course correction. So what are some more examples of these kinds of confirming phrases? Here are a few. Do you think that will address your needs? Have we found a good solution for you? Do you think that this, whatever your offering is, will work for you? Also, listen for possible objections. So what does a customer say or do that might keep them from buying from you? So everything you learn is valuable in the sales conversation. So let's see this in action. Back to our demo. Mavis has just learned that Stacy cares about fitting dog crates into her car. So how is Mavis going to tailor her demonstration to meet Stacy's needs? Mavis.
Okay, Stacy, why don't we start with a minivan? We have a model where you can remove the second row of seats as well as the third row if needed. You could fit both crates in there side by side and strap them down really securely. Those dogs would be really safe. And now I can't forget, I have to finish up by confirming that my solution meets her needs. So how does that sound?
Great. Yes. Let's start by looking at the minivan. That makes sense.
Let me show you some of the features of this minivan. Let's start in the back where you would put the dog crates. Do you think you'd want them right behind you here in the second row? Or would you want them towards the back?
I think if possible, I'd really like them to be right behind me. Then I can give them snacks on really long trips.
Ah, perfect. I think that's also the safest place for them too, since it's inside the passenger compartment. So let me show you how you can remove these two seats in the second row. You can either stow them by pulling this lever, or you can remove them entirely. See how they move right into the floor and create a nice flat surface for the crates?
Wow, that's really nice. It's simple and straightforward.
Yes, and you'd still have room for cargo or passengers depending on whether you fold the third row down or keep it up. The dogs and any passengers have easy access with the sliding doors. So now I'm going to confirm again to see if Stacy thinks this is a good solution to her problem. So do you think that will work for you?
Yeah, I really like this solution because I'll have easy access to the dogs at all times.
Perfect. How about if we take it for a test drive and I can show you some of the other cool features of the vehicle?
So notice that Mason's demonstration to Stacy focuses on what Stacy cares about. She doesn't cover every feature of the car like a shooting gallery. And don't forget to ask for that soft confirmation. That tip is actually golden. So the last tip of opening is step 4, state the price. Now it's important to state the price in a clear and straightforward manner because this shows confidence in the value that you offer. The goal is to say the price clearly and to stand firm. And it says zip it because it's really tempting to say your price, get some silence from the customer, and then just start babbling on. You apologize for the price, you justify the price, or even worse, you discount it for absolutely no reason. So the key tip is this: after you say the price, be quiet, zip it, and wait until the customer responds. And you may need to wait a little while. That's okay. Silence is golden. Live with the silence. This is going to take some patience. But I cannot tell you how many millions of dollars we have saved our clients with this tiny piece of advice. If you keep talking, you will just be negotiating against yourself. So let's see how Mavis handles this step with Stacy. Mavis.
So let's assume that I showed Stacy the minivan, we went out for a test drive, and now we're back in the dealership. So I'm going to start by confirming that the car she drove will meet her needs. And I'm looking for a firmer confirmation this time. What did you think of the vehicle, Stacy? Do you think it will meet your needs? You're on mute, Dersh.
Whoops, sorry. Yes, I liked it a lot. I think it would be great for the dogs.
Perfect. Did you like the trim level you drove and the color? The next level up in trim has leather, but it's otherwise the same.
I don't need leather, and yes, I prefer the pearl color that we drove.
So I've confirmed that we met Stacy's needs, and now I'm going to state the price of the car and I'm going to zip it. Excellent. So great news. I've checked our inventory and that car is in stock. The MSRP on that vehicle is $45,000.
Oh,
So again, we have a little uncomfortable silence. And I know she doesn't like the price, but I'm just going to smile and wait.
Well, how much is the next trim level down?
The next trim level down is 42,500, but it's missing that digital mirror you really like.
Oh, okay. Let's go with the one I drove then. I
So
really want
sometimes-
that digital mirror.
Sometimes customers will accept the price like Stacy did here because they really want the value, or the digital mirror in this case. Other times they may raise objections, which will take us into the second half of the sales conversation, which we call closing. So those are the 4 steps for opening the sale. And I know right now you're trying to imagine yourself just zipping it after stating the price. It's super weird, right? But in a minute, we're going to do a little debrief of the opening process. Before we do that, one caveat. So our process for sales conversations is a technique for salespeople who are working on their skills and confidence. It's just a starting point. This is not a set of hard rules. It's just a launching pad. So adapt it to your situation. So maybe you really don't have a price per se. Maybe you send a proposal instead. The concept still applies. So walk the client through the proposal, but you don't have to give a dissertation about why the price is what it is or go through your whole pitch all over again. Once you get confident at selling and you know how sales conversations go for your particular offering, then you're naturally going to depart from this process and make it your own technique. And that is as it should be. Every salesperson develops a unique style for every offering. And when you find yourself going off script, you'll know that's a sign that you're just getting really confident, and that's something to celebrate. Okay, so that said, let's go to the chat and do a quick debrief of the first 4 steps of the Zenagos sales process. We're going to have a little quiz to cement our understanding. So Stacey's going to put a quiz question in the chat. So question number 1, what do we call the process of creating awareness and interest to generate leads? I think it's one of those unfair pop quizzes where I forgot to cover the material before I gave you the question, but we call it marketing. We call that beginning part of the sales process marketing. And then we call the second part sales. So getting the lead is marketing, and then developing that lead into a customer is sales in our lexicon. All right, I'm going to skip Stacy to question 3. Which of the following is not one of the 4 steps in opening a sales conversation? So we covered the 4 steps of opening. Which one of these is not a step? That's right. Overcoming objections is part of closing. It's actually the first part of closing, and we're going to cover that next. All right, number 4, if you're not sure how to engage with a new prospect, what is the best sales strategy? That's right. Reflect their behavior. I kind of like D. Ignore them and hope they go away. I'm not a natural salesperson. I really had to learn. All right, question 5. Which of the following is a good bridge from small talk to sales talk? I agree. It's A. The others all extend the small talk. And, you can extend the small talk. That's okay. But sooner or later, you do need to get down to business. So that's what the bridge is for. Okay. Why is it important to understand the customer's needs? Number 6. Stacy, I'm going to skip to number 8 after this one. Yeah, this one's kind of a hard one, isn't it? These are all correct. So for purposes of a sales process, I might choose B as the most important because you're going to learn which features the customer cares about. But these are all really important reasons to understand the customer's needs. All right, last one. Number 8, what strategy does Zenagos recommend after you state the price? That's right. We don't actually let the prospect make the next move. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, let the prospect make the next move. I got confused by my own question. You're all exactly right. Zip it. That's what we want to do. Let them make the next move. Awesome. Okay, so what do you want to remember about opening? Go ahead and put some thoughts into the chat about opening. What do you want to remember? Any tip in there that was helpful? Yeah, zip it's always a hit. Ask more relevant questions. The questions tip is a really great tip. Asking questions that get you to the differentiation of your product is a really good tip. When you download the sales sheet, make sure to look at that one carefully. All right, let's get into the second half of the sales process. Actually goes a little bit faster here, which is closing. So now that you've opened your sales conversation effectively, it's time to close the sale. And not everyone has to close. There are a lot of sales situations in which one person or department opens the sale and another department closes the sale. However, it's good to know the entire sales process anyway. So setting a stage, in step 4, we stated the price and we waited quietly and confidently for the customer to make that next move. So this usually means listening for objections and addressing them. So that's step 5. So an objection is anything that a potential customer says or thinks that might keep them from buying from you. When you receive objections, it's not a bad sign. It's not a reason to get defensive. It's just information. So this is a natural and normal part of the selling process. When you get to an objection, your customer is just telling you have a little bit more selling work to do. So in preparation for this next section, let's just take a second to reflect. What objections do you get frequently when you're selling your offering? What do prospects say or think that keeps them from buying from you? Cost too much. Price is by far the most common objection. Budget issues, too expensive. Absolutely. That's the most common. The goal in this step is to identify the type of objection and address it with an appropriate response. The key tip here is listen well so that you hear the objection. And then the first time you get a new objection, your answer may not be perfect, and that's okay. It's completely normal. But when you do get a new objection, write it down, because then when you get time, think through what the best way would have been to respond to it. And then practice the responses until you figure out what actually works best for your product and for that type of objection. You'll know you've addressed it when the customer is willing to move forward in the conversation. So more about that in just a sec. One quick thing, we don't have time today to really dig into the details of how you identify and address objections. But we do have a popular webinar on that. So look out for that in our newsletter. And meanwhile, if you want a completely awesome framework for identifying and addressing customer objections right now, we have a free ebook on that our clients just love. So to get it, just go to our homepage, scroll to the bottom and sign up for our newsletter and check the box that says, I want the customer objections ebook. Our newsletter only comes out once a month and it has great info in it. So addressing customer objections can be a cycle in which the prospect raises an objection, you identify the type of objection, and then you ask questions to confirm your understanding so that you can choose the best response. And then you address the objection with that response and confirm that you've addressed it. This confirmation step is the same kind of soft confirmation, like how does that sound? So that when the customer confirms that you've addressed the objection, you're ready to ask for commitment. So this is a cycle. When you receive commitment, you're done with the cycle. However, really often when you ask for commitment, the customer will raise a new objection. That's okay. It's part of the process. So when that happens, you just do the cycle again. Identify the objection, address it, confirm you've addressed it, and then ask for commitment again. So you keep doing this within reason and nicely, of course, until the customers run out of objections and ready to commit. And then sometimes you run into a situation where there's an objection you can't address or you can't resolve it right then. And when that happens, you jump off the cycle and you schedule a follow-up at a date and a time when you would have the ability to answer it. All right, so let's see how Mavis handles Stacy's objections. Mavis.
I've addressed the price objection and confirmed which model she wants, and now I'm going to ask for commitment. Stacy, I can get that paperwork started right now and make sure you get that Pearl minivan. You're on mute again.
Well, hang on. I like the car, but I think the dealer down the road also has a minivan model that I was thinking about checking out.
So Stacy's raised another objection, and I need to address this one. She wants to shop around. So it's in my best interest to keep her focused on our model I also know from listening to her that safety for her dogs is one of her primary concerns. Sure, Stacy, I understand. So let me show you the most recent Car and Driver and Consumer Reports reviews on minivans. It compares the top models of the minivans against each other, and you'll see that ours comes in #1 for safety and reliability. It scores a 9.5, which beats all other models.
Well, this does look like the best option for me.
So I've addressed the objection and received a soft confirmation from her that it is addressed. Now I'm going to ask for commitment again. Perfect. So I'm going to write up the order now. How will you be paying for the vehicle? With cash, or will you be financing today?
So this dialogue shows you the rhythm of the objection cycle. Stacy asked a question about the price. Mavis identified the price as an objection. She addressed it by saying that Stacy could pay less if she chose the next trim level down, but then she'd lose the digital mirror. Stacy confirmed she wanted the more expensive model in the pearl with a digital mirror, and then Mavis asked for commitment. But then Stacy raised a new objection, saying that she wanted to check out a minivan at another dealer. This restarts the objection cycle. Mavis identifies this as a competitive options objection. She addresses it by showing her reviews from Car and Driver about how the dogs are going to be safe. Mavis gets confirmation that this looks like the best option. Having addressed that, she's ready to ask for commitment again. Okay, so after addressing each objection, you ask for commitment, which is step 6. So many small business owners have trouble with this step. This step is important because if you want the deal, you do have to ask for it. The goal of this step is to clearly ask for the sale or the commitment to the next step. It could be a meeting, it could be something else for a complex sale. So the easiest way to ask for commitment is with a presumptive close, also called the assumptive close. You just assume that the customer is ready to buy, and you say something that moves them toward commitment. So here are some examples of presumptive close phrases. Shall I start the paperwork? Will you be using cash or charge? Can I sign you up to start on Monday? May I send you a formal proposal with all the numbers we just discussed? So as with stating the price, once you ask, be quiet and wait for the customer to answer you. So don't revisit the numbers. Don't go on and on describing what's in your proposal. Practice different ways of asking for commitment and try them out to see which one works best for you. The key tip here, be patient. Be ready for the customer to raise new objections and take each objection as an opportunity to build warmth and trust. Don't get frustrated by them. When you get a new objection, you know what to do. Restart the objection cycle. So let's see how Mavis handles this step with Stacy, this commitment step.
So I've addressed the most recent objection and received confirmation that it is addressed. So now I'm going to ask for commitment. Perfect. I'm going to write up the order now. How will you be paying for the vehicle? With cash, or will you be financing today?
Oh, I'm going to finance. It's going to be a loan with my husband as a co-signer, but he's in London this week.
So I asked Stacy for the commitment, but she just gave me a big surprise. We need another decision maker to complete this deal. I need to figure out if I really need to have a commitment from both buyers. Okay, no problem, Stacy. So it's 11 a.m. here on the East Coast, and it's probably 4 p.m. in the UK right now. Do you think we can get him on the phone and make sure he's on board with co-signing for this purchase?
Sure. I'll call him now. Hi, it's me. I'm at the dealer and I chose a car. I need you to co-sign. Can you talk to the salesperson? Her name is Mavis. Here, Mavis. His name is David.
So great. We reached the second buyer and I need to ask for commitment. Hi, David. How are you today? I'm sorry to bother you on your trip. I just wanted to confirm that you're on board with co-signing for a loan for Stacy for a brand new minivan. Great. So I'm going to send you some paperwork that needs to be signed. Will you be able to do that today and send it back to me? Great. You'll get it within the next 2 hours. Thank you, David. So I have 2 buyers and they have both committed to buying the minivan. Phew.
So Mavis asked for commitment. She found out there was another hurdle to overcome because there was another decision maker, and she got commitment from that second person. Once you get commitment, the sales conversation has been a success. We have a couple more quick steps as we wrap. One is that many times you can't close a deal with a single meeting, so you have to schedule a follow-up. In fact, much of sales is good follow-up, and that's step 7. This is important because you need to keep the prospect moving down the funnel all the way. And to do that, you always set up the next step before you finish the conversation. This is really easy to forget. The goal is communicate clearly. Never let your prospect leave without a clear next step with a specific date and time. Follow-up is critical. I've worked in businesses that had hundreds of salespeople, and when I asked people in other departments to guess who the highest grossing salesperson was, their guesses were usually wrong. In my experience, the best salesperson isn't the person who has the perfect accent or the most beautiful or the person who's the funnest to talk to. It's the person who's the most reliable. The key tip here is it doesn't matter what your system is or whether it looks organized to anyone else. People buy from salespeople who they know, like, and trust. And a lot of that comes from being the person who reliably does what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. So let's see how Mavis handles this with Stacy.
So I have agreement from Stacy's husband that he's agreed to co-sign the loan, but I need to make sure all that paperwork gets signed to secure the commitment. Okay, Stacy, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you over to the finance department right now so you can work out all the payment details. I'll let them know you have a co-signer. And then I'm going to speak to my manager about the best way to get your husband's signatures via email and all the other details for the loan. After that, I'll swing back by finance and fill you in as soon as I can. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
As you close a commitment, it's important to be clear and confident. Management research about conversation, like sales and interviews, shows that the time a person is most likely to say something awkward and off-putting is right at the end of the conversation when everybody's relaxing and getting up to leave. So make sure you keep your game face on all the way to the end. All right, the last step in the process doesn't really need a demo. Everybody handles rejection in their own way. However, handling rejection really is an important part of sales. And one of the reasons many of us hate sales is that we don't like the answer no. The key tip here is that no is a much better answer than maybe. When a prospect gives you a really clear no, you can move on to the next prospect and invest your time in a customer who may want what you have to offer. So maybe is tougher because then you have to spend time on a prospect who may never be ready to buy. So when you get rejected, console yourself that no is just clear information that frees you up to move on to the next prospect. And that's the whole sales process. So let's do a quick debrief in the chat. What do you want to remember about closing the sale? Is there any tip in there that really resonated with you? It's a great question about how do you do this over email. I hope we get to it. Right? Be patient. Keep your game face on. No is better than maybe. That one really resonated with me too. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, because I really hate no. All right, before we get to Q&A, we're going to do one more quick demo so you can hear the whole sales conversation flowing from beginning to end, but it's going to go fast. I want to remember to zip it. I do too. Since our last conversation was a product, this one's going to be about a service. So Mavis is going to be a salesperson again, but this time she's going to sell e-commerce consulting, and Stacy's going to be the prospect who owns some candy stores and needs some e-commerce help. So this is going to go quickly, but we'll follow along with the slides. Go ahead, Mavis.
Hi, Stacy. I'm Mavis. I'm the founder of Commerce Consulting. I understand you know Dan.
Oh yeah, Dan and I are neighbors. We ran into each other the other day and he recommended that I speak with you.
Oh, that's great. I've known Dan a long time. We used to work at the same company. He is awesome.
He is. He's been a customer at my candy store for a long time.
So tell me about your business. It looks like you have two wonderful handmade candy stores in Boston. I've looked at your website and social media posts. It all looks delicious.
Yeah, I have two storefronts, but I've also been trying to figure out how to do more online selling.
So let me make sure I understand. You have what looks like to me two terrific centrally located stores, and now you'd like to add e-commerce.
Yep, that's right.
So how do people get your candy from you now?
Well, they have to call me, email me, or Facebook DM me. I'm probably missing out on some revenue because it's an extra step for them to reach me at an order.
It sounds like your business has a ton of potential, but you need to put some things in place to meet this hidden demand. I think we can help. Shall I tell you a little bit about Commerce Consulting?
Yeah, that would be great.
We work with a lot of retail business owners like you. They really feel like they're missing out on possible revenue opportunities without an online commerce platform. I'm guessing that a basic Amazon or Shopify site won't do the trick. Is that right?
Yeah, Amazon charges way too much for the service you get, and I can't keep my inventory at their distribution centers. I want to know that my candy is completely fresh. And Shopify is also expensive and has limited customization.
Great, that's what I thought. We can implement a commerce system that tracks your different SKUs, provides cart functionality, reviews and ratings features, and a straightforward checkout process.
What about site design?
Great question. We have a wonderful branding team and we'll work closely with you on the design. Does this sound like something that would help you with your current challenge?
Yes, definitely. What do you charge?
So we'll do this in 3 phases: discovery, design, and then implementation. Each phase is priced separately. The discovery phase is $5,000. The later phases depend on what comes out of the discovery process.
Huh. Can I get a range for the other phases? I need to know how much I should budget for the whole project.
Sure. For similar projects, we've been able to get this done for under 75K all in.
Well, that's a big investment. How can I be sure I'm going to get real value from it?
Do you think you won't get a good return on your investment?
I guess I'm not sure how much revenue I will really earn from online sales. My gut says a lot, but I really don't know the numbers.
I understand. We could work with you to calculate how much more money you'll make by going online. You'll go into this project with an understanding of your revenue potential.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
So shall we go ahead and set a start date for the discovery phase?
You know, I'm in a really busy season right now. I was thinking I'd wait until business slows down a little, then I'd sign a contract.
I see. Well, when you start is absolutely your decision. But do you think you can really afford to wait? I mean, you keep working this hard on your stores without seeing additional revenue. It might be good to start planning this out sooner rather than later. We could start working together on the business case as soon as tomorrow. Do you agree?
You know, you're right. I just can't keep working like this. I do need to make a change.
Okay, let's fill out this non-disclosure agreement together. This protects your confidential information. And let's book your business case meeting right now. How's tomorrow at 3?
Perfect. I'm free at 3. Let's do it.
All right, so Mavis has achieved commitment. She set a specific date and time for the next step, so her sales conversation is a success. So that concludes our presentation, but we're going to hang out here for Q&A. We hope that each of you found at least 1 or 2 nuggets in our sales process that will help you to perfect your sales conversations. As promised, here's a QR code again for the free PDF takeaway that summarizes what we covered today. And if you want our free ebook, go to our website, go to the newsletter at the bottom, sign up for newsletter, and click the box for ebook. All right.
Is Teresa
let's
still
take
with
a
us?
look.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, so
Take a
we
look at
had,
that Q&A.
yeah, I don't have any in the Q&A, and I want to definitely encourage everyone to get their questions in now. We did have that one that was put into chat, which I'm trying to find. Okay, how can you, how can these tips be deployed in sales processes that are primarily virtual or over email?
Mavis, you want that one?
Sure. So I'm not sure what business this is, but let's assume you're trying to really just close the sale without any one-on-one conversation. If that's true, then probably you need an email sequence of some sort. So initially you'll send out kind of a broad set of emails to a large audience and try to get your first level of interest. So you want them to commit to do something for you. So they might respond to your email, but more likely you send them to your website to read something, download something, sign up for something. And then you'll know you've kind of got them at the first level of interest. And then you'll need to build some kind of ladder or a sequence that you take them through. So your next email to them will be like, great, thanks for signing up for blah, blah, blah. I hope you found this helpful. You know, people who've read this now are interested in our next offering, whatever that might be. So you kind of have to lead them down a path of showing more and more interest, but you do have to provide value at every step along the way to keep them engaged. And I see Stacy nodding, so she probably has some more to add here.
Yeah, and a lot of what you can do to get interest is make sure that you segment the people that are coming in so you know who has had an interest on what. And if you offer free things on your website on certain topics, you can track the topics that they're interested in and then provide them with additional information for that.
Right. I think this is actually from the same person, a different question in the web chat, which was, can this technique be used to enroll more students? And the answer is absolutely yes. I have enrolled literally hundreds of thousands of students, with sales forces in businesses that I worked in using these exact techniques. So yes, it can absolutely apply to enrolling students. It does look like we have a couple more questions, Teresa.
Yeah. Do you have advice on how to generate leads for a newer B2B business?
You
Did they
feeling
say what the
B2B
business
nervous?
was?
I don't know what the business is.
Okay. So a B2B business, you'll basically have to figure out who's your target customer. So what's the industry? Who's the decision maker? So let's say it's the head of a business unit in pharmaceuticals. I'm just making something up. So you want to go through LinkedIn and start identifying these people and figuring out where they hang out and what interests they have. And you want to start again offering something that would be of value. So you have to know what kind of pain point that you're trying to solve that they have. And you want to start demonstrating your expertise in how you can solve this pain. So how do you know about the pain? How would you solve the pain? How have you solved it in the past? And these are the kinds of examples you want to start sharing with your target audience. And I would advise you want to narrow it as much as you can to the exact role within a particular type of organization. So shooting out like a broad message is often harder to do than actually targeting the specific role and the specific individual, because you can really customize your message when you know it's a certain size pharmaceutical company and that person has a certain set of problems they're trying to solve given their size, given whether they're biologics or something else.
Also, what some people don't realize is in LinkedIn, you can identify groups that have your target market, and you can also have people sign up for a newsletter in LinkedIn. And in addition to LinkedIn, which is actually the best place to go find your B2Bs, you can also try Facebook and sign up for particular groups. And that would also not only give you an idea of folks to target, but it also might give you an idea of other angles to address based on questions that you read out of the groups.
And I'll toss in one more thing. One of our entrepreneurs realized that if he looked in job postings by other companies, he could find out what businesses they were serving. And so look at resumes of people replying to his own job postings. Where had those people done work, and get really great ideas for B2B from, actually either hiring or, being hired.
Okay. I provide a physical service that needs a custom estimate for each project, mural painting. Sometimes clients are interested in getting a ballpark figure prior to the estimate. What's a good way to field this request without over or under promising?
Yeah, so I think, you have to start by thinking about some general parameters, and really people aren't trying to hold you to a price. People are really just trying to understand, is $100 enough, or are we talking $10,000? So they're trying to get a sense in their head. So with painting, and I don't know a lot about painting, but I might say something like, for a certain size painting, this is the range, or for a certain number of hours that it might take, or a certain number of days that it might take. Or if you have something that's really intricate, our price has, you might say, our price is generally in this range for most of our customers, but we have seen it go up higher when these other conditions exist. And I don't know what those other conditions might be, but something super intricate or something that's very involved that might need multiple approvals, or whatever your business where you see hurdles that increase the price, kind of call out those hurdles as examples of when the price might go up.
You also might be able to give examples and then price ranges on what they paid for your work.
Right.
How do you create a sense of urgency for a service when they don't see it as an urgent matter? They don't understand exactly. Yeah.
I'll start on that one. So in our customer objections model, we would call this a timing objection. And the best way to address a timing objection is to help them see the value that they'd be missing by waiting. And so there was actually a timing objection in the candy store example where Mavis used a technique we call fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is, what's going to happen if you don't do this? And so that is one of the techniques for a timing objection. But get our objections thing, and I think you'll get a few other tips for other kinds of objections that you might like. Timing objections are the most challenging. They're very challenging.
Any in-home sales advice? This is looks like a fence company.
So in-home meaning you have to go look at the property and then provide an estimate.
That's my guess.
Okay. So I think the
Yes.
sales conversation is the same as what we discussed here in the webinar. It's, actually understand, why do they want the fence? So is it to keep a dog in? Is it to keep the neighbors out? Is it because there's a requirement because you have a swimming pool and the state requires it? So, engage in a consultative conversation. Why do they want the fence? Have they had a fence in there before? Do they like their neighbors' fences? Do they dislike the neighbors' fences? Why? Are they seeking privacy, or do they actually really wish that it were more open? So then you get a sense of what kind of fence you could offer them, because I'm sure there's a wide variety that they could choose from. And the price range is going to be really, varying. So they might want something fancy or they might want something basic. But I would encourage you to start very consultative and then bring pictures and say, something like this for the amount of, the amount of fence, the amount of coverage we have here would put you in the such and so range, but I'd have to measure exactly. Whereas something like this would be, 20% more, but it would fit in more with the neighborhood based on the fact that I've driven around and looked at everyone else's fences.
She's good, isn't she? So if you want that free call with Mavis, you should take advantage of it. I think you could get more good stuff out of her. It looks like we missed Craig's question, which it says price negotiation, competitor has a better value at a lower price. So it really is tough if your competitor has a better value at a lower price. I mean, that's rough stuff. People do buy from salespeople that they like. And so you may actually be able to sell somebody a lesser value at a higher price if they just enjoy working with you. But if the question is, how do you negotiate? That's another one of those customer objections things. You never want to drop the price without also dropping what's being offered. And so as Mavis was talking about the fence example or the mural example, it's like, you give them a quote and they say, well, that's too high. When you drop it, just make sure that you're dropping off some of the services as well, so it doesn't seem arbitrary. I hope that's helpful.
And we have a question on cold calls, information on cold calls.
We don't have a webinar on cold calls. We do have quite a few clients who do them successfully. It's hard business. Mavis, comments on cold calling?
You really have to have a thick skin if you're going to approach your business through cold calling. And so assuming that you do, and assuming that you can take a lot of rejection, then it really comes down to practicing your script, making it as, snappy as you can, and just a tremendous amount of persistence and diligence. And then good follow-up with email or even pre-email saying, I'm going to call you, trying to highlight your value so you get the person to actually pick up the phone. But this one's pretty hard as a way of getting leads.
I can say, and I don't know who submitted the question, so I can't send you the link directly, but if you go onto the score.org /Boston website, we do a presentation that talks quite a bit about cold calling. So if you would want to look for the recorded, previously recorded webinar there, you can find that information there. For
Awesome.
that. Yep. It's a challenge to get face to face. I'm not sure what there was a question for that. So
We had thank you. You're welcome.
yeah.
A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. I think. Oh, here we go. I sell used cars and I usually utilize Facebook Marketplace. What are the best ways to get them from Facebook to my business to make that purchase?
Okay, so if they're interested in the car, they're expressing it on Facebook, and I think, you need to engage with them probably in a series of conversations to get them more and more interested in the car. So a car is a very emotional purchase, and you need to kind of play on that. So, you also want to play on, these are obviously used cars or pre-owned vehicles, and people know that those disappear, right? So you can't guarantee an inventory. So you want to play on timing. I just got this one, and I've got a bunch of moms who want to give their kids a car for graduation, and they're super interested in this pre-owned Honda Civic. And so if you're interested, I really encourage you to ask me as many questions as you can right now and potentially schedule a visit.
All right, this will be the last. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something?
I was going to say, having just gone through that, trust is a big part of it. So, communicate with them as much as possible through DMs or emails, and because they need to know you in order to buy something as large as a car, feel comfortable with you.
All right, so this will be the last question because we have hit the 1 o'clock hour. I sell contact lists via my website. Our strategy right now is to use email to find customers. Is email the best way to do this?
While they're thinking about that, I will say that email is still one of the best channels for small business. And Stacy and I wrote a blog article on this not too long ago. But it in terms of value for the money, email is a fantastic channel. And Mavis, other things to add?
Selling lists is really hard these days. Really, really hard. I think part of it is because, like, one of our customers recently told me he bought a list from like Upwork or Fiverr from some guys that were working like offshore, and they gave him a tremendous list for like $25. So I think it's you should do, selling it through email is fine. I think you really need to check out the competitors, and you need to find ways that you're differentiated and why your lists are better.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank Mavis, Karen, and Stacy for being with us today. And I know that there's everyone else, as you can see through the chat, through the submissions, are all thanking you as well. So have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.